leadership in mental health. We welcome to today's lecture program on faith healing and healers, exploring indigenous mental health in Indian and global context, by Professor R.K. Biswal. He's Associate Professor at National Institute of Technology, Roorkee, Odisha. We are honored to have such a esteemed speaker with us today. Professor Biswal is a highly accomplished individual with diverse knowledge and experience in the field of psychology and longing experience of working with the tribal population in Odisha. He earned his MA and MPhil in clinical and counseling psychology from Center of Advanced Study in Psychology, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. Subsequently, he pursued a PhD in developmental and social cognitive neuroscience from University of Delhi. With over 20 years of experience in teaching and research, Professor Biswal has made significant contribution to addressing mental health issues in India, focusing on the intricate connection between mind, behavior, and belief system. His research interest primarily revolves around developmental, social, cognitive neuroscience, mental health, disability and inclusive education, and psychometrics. Professor Biswal's dedication to education is evident in his role as a designer and instructor of numerous innovative courses at NIT and other institutes where he has taught. He has designed approximately 20 courses, including social psychology and application, advanced developmental cultural psychology, corporate social responsibility theory, developmental cognitive neuroscience, and managing human resource theory, ethics, and value. Additionally, he has conducted a short course on qualitative research methods for research scholars and NGO professionals. Notably, Professor Biswal has also played a pivotal role in establishing both a behavioral laboratory and rural engagement laboratory, further enhancing the scope of his research and providing valuable practical experience for his students. We are privileged to have Professor Biswal with us today and share his expertise on faith healing and healers and exploring indigenous mental health in India and global context. His vast knowledge and research acumen will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of this topic, and we encourage all the participants to actively participate and engage in today's lecture program. Once again, on behalf of Banyan and Banyan Academy, we welcome Professor R.K. Biswal and all the participants to join us today. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to have an insightful session ahead. Thank you, and I would request all the participants in between the session, if you have any question or doubts that you would like to address, kindly write it in the chat box. Thank you. Over to you. Without further ado, I would request Professor Biswal to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh, for introducing me to the audience. I hope I am audible to you all.
Yes, you're audible. Absolutely audible.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone present here. Today's topic that we are going to discuss is on faith healing and healers, exploring indigenous mental health in Indian and global context. Mental health has now become a buzzword for many after the COVID-19 pandemic. Not many people were aware how seclusion would impact our mental health when we were under lockdown, how it was affecting our mental health. Not only the individual, but also each member of the family. COVID-19 should not be an excuse to understand what mental health is. Mental health has been an important aspect of our health, and it is the important aspect of our health which is often neglected in the general practice of health and medicine. Now, when we are talking about faith healing and healers, why the topic is important? Because in the context of tribal or the indigenous people, they have been practicing this mental health or some of the methods from time immemorial. Of course, they are not the only people who are doing it. People who are living in the cities and metros also have the practice of some faith and beliefs. So with this background, let us see how this issue of faith healing and healers is practiced in our country as well as around the globe. Does it help? Is there any science behind it? Or can we integrate the faith and belief system to mental health? These are some of the questions that we would like to get an answer, or maybe we can discuss. Let me also declare here, this presentation is based on the available literature and the research that we found from the internet sources and some of the research literature. Some of the facts need verification, and some of the research also need to be critically analyzed. So this is the limitation that I have to tell before I talk about mental health. Oh, the slide is not moving. Is there any way? Oh yeah, right now it's okay. I hope all of you can see the slide change.
Yes, it is changing the
Okay.
slides.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see that in this picture, you are not seeing any stethoscope, any medicine, but somewhere it is touch, somewhere it is some chants, and somewhere it is something coming out from the body. These are some of the practices that we find in the indigenous communities and also in some of the city and temples, mosques, and churches that we call religious settings where some of the healing take place. Now, what is faith healing? It's a practice of prayer and gesture where we lay hands that some believe that trigger divine intervention in spiritual and physical healing, especially in Christian practice. So believers claim that healing of illness and disability can be achieved through religious faith, through prayer or other rituals that, according to adherents, can stimulate divine presence and power. This religious belief in divine intervention does not depend on empirical evidence from evidence-based results achieved through the healing faith. So there is no such empirical evidence on many of these practices that we see in and around us, that yes, it is based on some kind of evidence and you can replicate the results if you also practice the same. There lies the problem when we decide whether it is a scientific method or not to practice faith and belief to get some results. Sometimes faith healing also refers to terminate an illness or a debilitating physical condition through supernatural means, such as the power of prayer or godly intervention through a miracle. The important word here is miracle. Believers in faith healing believe that the healing of disease and disability can be brought about by religious faith through prayer or other rituals that can stimulate a divine presence and power. Faith healing as a method of treating illness through faith rather than medical methods. Faith healing is usually practiced through prayers to gods and deities. All religions have their own faith healing practices. So this is common to all religions that we practice around the globe. But there is a difference between faith and belief. The faith is the strong trust and confidence in something or someone, whereas belief is a state of habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing. In faith, that is mostly used to refer to religion, but belief is more general. Faith imply devotion. We surrender. In case of beliefs, it is not devotion, it is not surrender. In faith, there is a strong and unwavering trust in the religion. Beliefs are not that strong like faith. So faith is mostly used to refer to religion, but belief is used in a variety of contexts. So let me give you an example how we can understand faith and belief. Suppose person A says, my dog is faithful. That is person A's inner feeling, very strong belief. I know that the dog won't bite, but the dog doesn't understand the communication between the individuals. It might attack. The master is equally clueless about unpredictable behavior of the dog, but he or she is fully convinced that the dog will never attack. So the person B says, if you say this, dog never says this. If you say this, I believe that the dog won't bite. So he means, I can't believe the dog, but I believe in you. Similarly, in this process of healing, the healer is important in a therapeutic setting and not the healing process. So the process of healing might harm the patient. We have seen Erwadi tragedy in 2001. But since there is a stronger belief in the healer, the patient conveniently ignores the side effects of healing. We do not question. If healers can be trained to practice innocuous methods, faith healing can become one of the potential methods to address some mental health issues. So here, the focal point or the crux is the individual, the healer. He is the important person. Now, how healer drives the process, that becomes the important aspect of the healing process. Many a times, we do not question our faith or belief on the healer. We just follow whatever he or she says. And there is the problem. Let us see if faith matters in healing. According to a study by American Cancer Society, and based on the available scientific evidence, they do not support that faith healing can actually cure physical ailments. In a 1998 review, they say that the children treated by faith healing, 172 children, they were all dead. In a more recent study, it was found that 200 children had died of treatable illnesses in the United States over the past 30 years because their parents relied on spiritual healing rather than conventional medical treatment. At least one study has also suggested that adult Christian scientists who generally use prayer rather than medical care have a higher death rate than other people of the same age. Now, coming to the mental illnesses, does faith matter? There are many studies. Faith healers in many conditions and situations became the first point of contact, as the faith of the community in these faith healers is deeply rooted. Different reasons for which the persons usually came, that range from supernatural position, unemployment, family problems, and various different processes that were used by these healers to solve the problems, that include giving charms, amulets, personal sacrifices like Baddha or Bali, and many others. Research on culturally based beliefs and practices related to mental illness in Ghana also suggests to provide training for traditional and faith-based healers. That is also very frequently adopted in Ghana. In the state of Odisha, in a psychiatric inpatients study, it was found that 85.5% of the patients believed in supernatural causation. 75% attended faith healing before seeking medical help, and a considerable proportion had related psychopathology and continued to believe in the therapeutic efficacy of the faith healing, even while continuing medicinal treatment. Our own studies also suggest something on that line. Cultural influence regarding beliefs on etiology of mental illness and healing preferences exerts a strong impact on healing practices adopted by the tribal people. However, the healing preferences dynamically vary in favor of either traditional healers or medical professionals, or they take no action. They support a kind of model that we have proposed, an eclectic healing model I'll be talking about later, to a healing preference, which is a combination of all the above methods. I mean, they switch over and they try to see whichever works. That is the method that they follow. So in our study, we also found that 36% of the patients with mental illness consulted the traditional healers at the onset of mental illness. And supernatural beliefs are highly dominated on deciding the etiology of mental illness among the patients. So based on a case study, it was found that perception is everything. This is a study of a bipolar disorder where the patient in the manic state, they perceive that miracles are endlessly abundant and a reward for great faith. The belief in miracles can progress easily to the belief that a miracle has happened. But when depressed, you can perceive it as a painful test of faith or punishment for lack thereof. So in this blackness, hope is lost and miracles no longer exist. To help a patient stay grounded yet hopeful, the shift needs to be that the medications are the miracle and taking them daily is the act of faith. So this is the problem that the therapists face on a daily basis while they treat people with mental illness. So with the right guidance, faith and mental illness can unite in a healthy and unique way. So as the director of Banyan says, what faith healers provide is in line with the beliefs of the patients. So they are the best psychologists of the world. They know what the patients want. So they treat the patient likewise. Over 70% of the people first seek help from faith or traditional healers for some weeks or months before turning to mental health practitioners as per the director of Schizophrenia Research Foundation. The debate over how to view the role of faith healing in treating mental health is divided. The problem is the inhuman rituals and the methods of treatment. As I have mentioned in the earlier slides, the process no one questions. So that is why we have problem with faith healing. In India, healthcare is among the lowest public sector spending. This is the most scientific reason. And from this spending, mental health receives less than 1% of healthcare budget. So in the National Mental Health Program also, we are not able to spend a good amount of money, whatever is allocated. These are practical issues that we are dealing with. Why faith healing is the first choice of people with a mental illness. Now coming to understand who are the indigenous people, we call them tribal, we call them Adivasi, we call them Janjati. They are the people with distinct social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties to the lands and natural resources where they live, occupy, or from which they have been displaced. They have inhabited before mainstream society or colonizers. They have a different way of treating economic, social, and cultural affairs from mainstream societies. They have their own language and administrative system. They consider their land and water sacred and linked to their identity, community, and spirituality. So this uniqueness of these cultures have helped them grow with their own traditions. Their relationship with the mainstream society is rather less than people living in the cities. And since they live in the forests, in the terrains, in the hill regions, communicating or commuting from those places became a challenge for them. So these are practical difficulties they face. That is why faith healing is an integral part of the indigenous people. They believe that spiritual forces, deities, ancestors, or other supernatural entities can bring about healing and restore balance. Here, the point is balance. They think that there is some kind of imbalance. As we see now, the entire world is facing issues of climate change. So climate has now become imbalanced. We need to do something immediately to balance it. They have understood it from time immemorial. We need to restore the balance. The faith healing process involves some rituals, some ceremonies, some prayers, incantations, dances, and the use of sacred objects and symbols. They are mostly conducted by faith healers. We call them spiritual leaders. And they are entrusted with the responsibility of conducting healing rituals and serving as intermediaries between the human and spiritual realms. What are the different types of faith healing that we are resorting to or indigenous people resort to? One of the most popular is shamanism, where the methods of linking with spirits and spiritual world involves rituals, ceremonies, chants, music, dance, and the use of specific tools or objects. The shaman enters an altered state of consciousness, often through techniques such as drumming, chanting, or dance. Now, if we look at the process when there is drumming, chanting, or dance, the entire body is getting some kind of stimulation through different senses. This alters the states that allows the shaman to journey into the spiritual realm, communicate with spirits, and receive guidance or healing energies. The shaman may also perform soul retrieval, a practice aimed at restoring lost or fragmented parts of the individual's soul believed to contribute to illness or distress. So the belief is that the soul is distorted, the soul is fragmented. Through this process, we are restoring the soul to its original form. They use some diagnostic strategies like divination to identify the underlying spiritual causes of ailments. This can involve reading signs from nature, interpreting dreams, or using specific tools like bones, stones, or cards. Once the causes are determined, the shaman works to restore balance and harmony by performing rituals, ceremonies, and administering herbal remedies. So these are very common things. We can see a pattern in the practices. There are many kind of rituals they practice, like rituals for purification through herbs, baths. There are ceremonies for spiritual connection. They go for prayers, they go for chants, dances, drumming, and use of sacred plants or substances to induce altered states of consciousness and facilitate communication with the spirits of ancestors. In this region where I work, here we see there is a festival called Karma. In this festival, they bring the branches of the tree called Karma, and they worship the tree, and they believe that good fortune will come if we worship the tree, and we will have good health. So these are ingrained in their culture. Other ritual is initiation and rite of passage. Tribal healing rituals are frequently associated with significant life transitions like birth, puberty, marriage, or death. These are not also new to people who are staying in the cities. We also practice some of them. These rituals serve as initiations and rites of passage, guiding individuals through these transitions and facilitating their integration into the community. Then the other form of ritual is healing dances and movement. Dance is a powerful element in many tribal healing rituals. As we have seen, they are they engage in dancing so much, and they enjoy also. But this is a form of healing that many of us may not be aware of. Now, while we dance, we are also engaged in some kind of physical exercise. And as we know, if you remain physically fit or physically agile, we can also remain mentally fit. So this repetitive movement, rhythmic pattern, and symbolic gestures, they help them to remain very agile. Dancing is also believed to promote healing by harmonizing the body, mind, and spirit and creating a sense of unity within the community. Now, there are multiple benefits of these practices. Rituals are not only rituals for a particular purpose, but it has many benefits from other aspects too. The another form of ritual is vision quests and solitary retreats. Some tribal healing practices involve individuals embarking on vision quests or solitary retreats in nature. These quests are spiritual journeys undertaken to seek guidance, self discovery, and spiritual insights. During these quests, individuals may fast, meditate, or engage in rituals to connect with their inner selves, spirits, or deities. Now, coming to the fasting. Now, fasting has been established as one of the important methods of treatment. We know that gut is our second brain. Now, through fasting, the healing process becomes faster, and there are many methods that have come up. They have been doing it for from time immemorial. The other ritual is for ancestral connection. Tribes often hold rituals to honor and connect with their ancestors. These ceremonies involve offerings, prayers, and acts of remembrance to seek guidance, blessings, and spiritual support from ancestral spirits. Ancestral connection is considered essential for healing and maintaining harmony within the community. We respect people who have departed, who are no more here with us, but they also deserve a respect. Through this, they try to preserve the contributions of the people who are no more with them. So if you look at some of the positive aspects of some of the rituals, they are considered to be healthy ways, healthy practices. The other ritual for community healing, uh, which is not limited to individual healing, but also extend to the collective well-being of the community. These rituals are performed to address social issues, conflicts, or imbalances within the community. Now, how thoughtful they are in addressing the issues which affect them as a collective society. Why it is important that we must take care of our surrounding, the people around us, and our society. If society would be in harmony, the individual would have a peaceful life. This is what is the belief. And this is a belief which is uh, more helpful rather than harmful. Now, the most popular form of faith healing, which is called herbal remedies, this can be tested scientifically. One form of medicine that we Indians know, uh, the Ayurveda, which is also based on plants. The medicine and everything of a plant is used to cure some of the diseases. Now, because they were staying or they have been dwelling in the forests, they come in contact with the plants, they observe the plants, they observe the behavior of the plants, and they have been using different parts of the plant for various diseases or disorders. And that was passed from generation to generations. The forefathers, they tell it to their children and grandchildren, and likewise the practice goes on. But if they can be trained to know more about the plants and their effects, the chemistry and the physics behind this, this can be used as a potential method where we do not have doctors available in those places. That can be a, an addition to the process that we are following for uh, uh, treating people. So those healers need to be trained. That is one of the issue that we have not yet addressed adequately. And there is another benefit to this practice, that if we are using plants, then we are also focusing on restoring those plant species. And the generation to come would know the value of these medicinal plants, as well as every plant has some medicinal value. So the uh, cutting of trees and ruining the flora and fauna of the environment can also be addressed if we correctly recognize and train people who are into herbal remedies. In the indigenous tribes of North America, uh, they have a practice that is called talking circles and ceremony. Talking circles are communal gatherings where individuals come together to share their thoughts, experiences, and emotions in respectful and non-judgmental space. Many of us, uh, those who have gone through a training as a psychologist, we are aware of the non-judgmental kind of practice in counseling. So here they are adhering to a practice where the people are not judged based on whatever they are sharing. This is one of the important aspects of the process that they follow. Talking circles serves as a form of healing, allowing participants to express themselves, gain support, and receive guidance from the community. Now, for this, we are paying a heavy amount at the clinicians or the counselors office. But if it is happening in the community, but with the right kind of people, those who can actually guide others in a direction which is beneficial for them, would definitely serve the community in a better way. So ceremonies such as pipe ceremonies or sacred fire ceremonies are also conducted with indigenous tribes as a means of spiritual healing, connection, and communication with the divine. Some of the parts of these talking circles and ceremonies can also be investigated for their validity, scientific validity, if there is any, and can be popularized. Similarly, the other uh, ways that they follow in North America, the indigenous tribes, that is called sweat lodge ceremony. The sweat lodge ceremony is a traditional healing practice performed by many indigenous tribes in North America. It involves entering a small enclosed structure made of natural materials such as willow branches and blankets. Heated rocks are placed in the center and water is poured on them, creating steam. Participants engage in prayers, songs, and meditation while cleansing their bodies and spirits through sweat. The ceremony is believed to promote purification, spiritual renewal, and physical healing. Now, when we go for exercise in the gym, what we do, we sweat. So when we sweat, we see that we feel relaxed, because that's a process through which the body cleanses itself. Now they are also talking about this Shwet Laj ceremony, through which the body cleansing can happen. And as mind and body are related closely, so one affects the other. So these are some of the practices they follow. Vision quest, as we have discussed earlier, that are significant rites of passage and healing practices among indigenous tribes. During a vision quest, individuals retreat to a secluded natural setting, typically fasting and spending several days in solitude, prayer, and meditation. So the purpose is to seek guidance, receive visions, connect with the spiritual realm, and gain insight into one's purpose and path in life. Now, what is happening when we live in the cities? We are so much disturbed by the kind of information, the noise, pollution, everything. So we also go for a vacation to places where we can get some time of solitude, because that adds quality to life. They have understood it. So they also use this as a process of healing the inner self. In the Australian communities, in the uh, indigenous communities of Australia, they use this bush medicine that involves the use of medicinal plants and natural remedies found in the local environment. Aboriginal healers have an extensive knowledge of plants, their properties, and their applications for healing purposes. So again, the plant-based healing system is also popular. The other form that Australian indigenous communities follow is dream time. The dream time refers to the creation period when ancestral beings shaped the land, established laws, and created the spiritual and physical world. Aboriginal healing involves connecting with ancestral spirits, seeking guidance, and assessing spiritual knowledge to address present day challenges and restore harmony. We have observed by now is that they are talking about their ancestors, they are talking about the nature, and they are also talking about the community. So these are some of the very positive aspects of the faith healing practices that can be used as a method in the current time to uh, to enhance the process of healing in the community. The other form that Australian Aboriginal communities adopt is healing or adding circles. Like the previous one, healing circles provide a safe space for individuals to share their experiences, emotions, and seek support from others. In the Amazon or Amazonian tribes, there is shamanistic healing. They call it plant medicine or ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a sacred plant medicine that holds profound spiritual and healing significance among shaman Amazonians. It is a psychoactive brew made from the combination of the Banisteriopsis capi vine and the leaves of the Psychotria viridis plant, which contains the potent hallucinogenic compound known as DMT or tryptamine, that believed to treat addiction, depression, and other mood disorders. The hallucinogenic compound is important here while they try to treat someone with addiction, depression, and other mood disorders. There is other form of the Amazonian tribes is soul retrieval. Shamanic healing in Amazonian tribes often involves the practice of soul retrieval. It is believed that traumatic experiences or emotional distress can cause soul fragmentation, resulting in a loss of vital energy and well being. Shamans undertake journeys to the spirit realm to locate and retrieve lost soul fragments, reintegrating them into individuals' being and promoting healing and wholeness. The other form is healing songs and ikaros. Shamans use healing songs known as ikaros during ceremonies and rituals. In some of the practices in uh, our cultures, also we have seen there are songs during marriage, there are songs during death, there are songs during welcome. So these are very integral to our cultures. So these songs are believed to have specific vibrational qualities that can invoke healing energies. We talk about music therapy these days. So music therapy is not a new concept. It has been there from a long time. So they communicate with the spirit and guide the healing process through this vibration. Icaros are sung with the intention and often incorporate repetitive melodies and vocalizations, creating a trance-like state and facilitating spiritual healing. And there are also purification rituals. Why purification rituals are important? Because they believe that there are some impurities. If that can be removed, the person will get a cure. So shamanistic healing practices often involve purification rituals to cleanse individuals, spaces, or objects from negative energies. So there is a belief that there are negative energies all around, or they create spiritual disturbances. So if you perform these purification rituals, they will be all clear to restore the balance, harmony, and spiritual well-being. Among the African types, this tribe follow an ancestral healing that we already discussed. Ancestral healing again involves seeking assistance of ancestors. The other one is dance rituals and ceremonies, herbal medicines. Now, there is a common pattern that we can see among all the tribes of the of different regions of the world. And divination and spiritual consultation. Here, the African tribes practice it widely as a means to seek guidance and insight from the spiritual realm. Diviners use various methods such as throwing bones, interpreting dreams, and reading signs in nature to access information and diagnose the cause of illness or misfortune. This is another form of ritual they practice is sacrifice and offerings. Ritual sacrifice and offerings are prevalent in African faith healing practices. Animals such as chickens, goats, or cattle may be sacrificed as offerings to appease spirits, ancestors, or deities. Back home in India, we have more than 700 tribal communities, accounting for approximately 8.6% of the country's population. They have sustained their unique cultural heritage and traditional knowledge through generations, maintaining a close connection with nature and their ancestral lands. Alongside their languages, tribes also have their unique art forms, music, dance, handicrafts, and folklore that reflect their history, beliefs, and way of life. Traditionally, tribal communities in India have been primarily dependent on agriculture, hunting, gathering, and forest-based livelihoods. They have developed sustainable practices and deep knowledge of the local ecology, utilizing forest resources for food, medicine, and shelter. They often have their community-based governance system where decisions are made collectively through consensus. Tribal societies value communal harmony, cooperation, and the well-being of the community as a whole. So when it comes to understanding the mental health of the indigenous communities or the tribes, we must understand the socio-cultural milieu of the tribes to see how they live their lives. Many a times when we get a training as a clinician, as a therapist, this approach to understand the clients from their perspective is missing in our syllabus, in our practice, which we need to uh, include so that a wider understanding of the culture can be there to help us in the process of healing. So as we have seen in the other countries, the three main themes that is coming as faith healing practices are shamanism, rituals, and herbal medicines. And India is also no exception. The same pattern is coming out from the practices. I have taken examples from various parts of the country in India, like Shonowal Kacharis of Dibrugarh, Assam. They employ many medical practices in order to provide healing to their members from suffering. So for fever, they use lime juice mixed with sugar, and that is put on the forehead of the sufferer to get relief from fever. Some of the practices can be examined, re-examined to see whether it is actually helping, actually relieving the pain. But most of these practices are related to physical ailments, and very few are there for the mental illness. But whenever there is any kind of illness in Indian tribes, the first preference, the first choice is the local healer, the traditional healer, or the faith healer who is available very nearby places. So it is because the person is available. So availability is one of the major issues. But with that, what happens with time? If someone gets cured because of some practice that the faith healer is performing, then there is a belief that is being built up, and people refer to that healer. Yes, you go to that healer, he, I know, can cure your disease, even if they do not know whether they would be able to cure it or not. But this is what is being very popularly practiced in among all the tribes. So there are Tajin tribe of Arunachal Pradesh, Apatani medical culture, where the healers use bloodletting devices to cure the members of the tribe. These are small bamboo tubes which are called tek biri. This is applied on the face, nose, and leg of women who come for healing. They put forward their affected parts to the suction of the bamboo tubes. The blood comes out profusely into the tube, and the traditional female healer then comes around to collect it. She sucks it out and spits it into a bowl. Similarly, there are Badaga community in Nilagiri and the tribal of the Western Ghat in Satara district. They all use plant-based medicines. Then Baigas of North Bastar, Chhattisgarh, Bhil tribe, they believe that witchcraft is, they practice witchcraft, They believed that some people, mainly women, had the ability to cause sickness, misfortune, or death. It was considered that they were in touch with malevolent spirits such as bhoots and chudels. Chudels are those male and female departed spirits, and they could cause them to attack a person through their malign glands. They were known as dakini. Many whales wore charms and amulets on their right forearms, or with women especially on their heads to keep such spirits at bay. The charms, consisting of a piece of blue string with 7 knots, were tied by an exorcist while he chanted incantations. The health of the society depends on the conduction of witchcraft by the members of the society. In many cases, the healers, known as bhopas among the wheel members, demanded for bribes from the sufferers, and it was on the basis of the bribes given to them that they were healed out of the suffering by the healers. Therefore, witchcraft is also believed to promote healing to the members of the group. Then Chakma communities of Chittagong Hills, they also depend on plants and herbs in order to heal members of the group. Garo tribe, they practice religious rituals, and one of the oldest rituals that the Garo tribe is practiced, that the tantra and mantra that is associated with healing. They believe that Shusumi god blesses the people of the group with warding off their diseases, pain, shock, and other dangers of life. The Garo people also lays their trust on Ayurvedic practices for treating diseases like dyspepsia, flatulence, anorexia, chronic dysentery, gastric, and sexual disease. Well, the practices are not limited to the tribal or the indigenous people. In the metros, we also practice some of those rituals. On new moon days, people from across Bengaluru, which is India's largest tech hub, thronged the Angala Parameswari temple at the heart of the city. This report is by Devex. The entrance is a larger than life sculpture of a lion's mouth, prized open by 2 plastic pipes supporting the beast's canines and jaw. Once inside, believers come to seek blessings from the eponymous goddess, a mother guardian who is vigilant against bad energy, phobias, and depression. Maheshwari, 20-year-old house help and babysitter, has been going to Angala Parameshwari since she was a child. Now she takes her clients and their children too. Whenever they feel low or anxious, they come with me. This scene is not unique to this temple, and the beliefs are not limited to young Bangaloreans. In South Asia, places of worship, temples, churches, dargahs, and mosques attract people of diverse socioeconomic backgrounds suffering from a variety of mental health issues and disorders. Studies show that allopathy is not always the first preference of Indians seeking help for mental health issues. A majority of Indians prefer faith healers, and this is driven by sociocultural preferences as well as poor health infrastructure. To add to this, another issue that is coming here is the awareness and acceptance about mental illness in the society. Many are not aware of what a mental illness is, and at the same time, even if they are suffering from any form of mental illness, they do not accept that they are actually mentally ill. So these are the major challenges for the therapists, why people are not coming to uh, take the help of uh, allopathy or modern medical facilities whenever it comes to mental illness. So to sum up, we can say that religious beliefs are integral to faith. A Pew Research Center study suggests that uh, around 84.9% of the people of the world belong to some religion, and religion as practiced from childhood has a deep impact on the belief system of the people. So as clinicians or practitioners, we just cannot ignore how an individual has developed the belief system and how it has affected or how it has built up the personality, the thinking, the attitude of the individual when it comes to counseling, when it comes to treating people with mental illness. So a study by Sarma and others, they have found that how the names of the deities and healers have come to play a role in the process of healing. Like Hanumanji, they have faith healer uh, who worships Hanumanji. There is Dasa Mata, there is Bhatiji Maharaj, then Allah Quran, uh, Chichargad Maharaj. These are the deities, and Meldi Mata, Muthi Sagau Mata, Siva Bhagwan, Ramdev Peer, and there are also some gods or goddesses or whoever who are non-specific. There are faith healers who practice this form of healing. And what are the reasons for seeking help from faith healers? Are the highest is supernatural influence, which also we also found the same in our study. And then the second one is evil eye, and likewise unfulfilled wishes, financial problems, and then estranged soul, they come after that. So these are the reasons for which we resort to faith healers. Okay, before I go to the next section, may I know how much time I have?
We are actually running short with our time, Professor.
Okay.
So if we,
Okay, so another 5 minutes, I'll wrap up.
yeah, absolutely. 5 to 10 minutes you can take and wrap up.
Okay, thank you. Now, the question is there any science behind faith and belief that people resort to? Let's see. We call it placebo and the placebo effect. There is effect of something which is not organic, but it has some impact. What is placebo? It's a pharmacologically inert preparation prescribed more for mental relief of the patient than for its actual effect on a disorder. An inert or innocuous substance used especially in controlled experiments testing the efficacy of another substance such as drug, or something tending to soothe. All of us or some of us must have been exposed to the homeopathic medicines. Sometimes the homeopath only gives the globules without medicine, but we believe that there is medicine and it acts. So the placebo effect is triggered by the person's belief in the benefit from the treatment and their expectation of feeling better rather than the characteristics of the placebo. So what is important here is the healer, the belief in the healer, and the individual who is going to the healer or the patient or the client. There is a Harvard study which says that treating yourself with your mind is possible, but there is more to the placebo effect than positive thinking. Your mind can be a powerful healing tool when given the chance. The idea that your brain can convince your body a fake treatment is the real thing, the so-called placebo effect. And thus, stimulate healing has been around for millennia. Now, science has found that under the right circumstances, a placebo can be just as effective as traditional treatments. The placebo effect is more than positive thinking, believing a treatment or procedure will work. It's about creating a stronger connection between the brain and body and how they work together, says Professor Ted Kapchuk of Harvard-affiliated Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, whose research focuses on the placebo effect. Placebos won't lower your cholesterol or shrink a tumor. Instead, placebos work on symptoms modulated by the brain, like the perception of pain. So perception is important. Placebos may make you feel better, but they will not cure you, says Kapchuk. They have been shown to be most effective for conditions like pain management, stress-related insomnia, and cancer treatment side effects like fatigue and nausea. So the two theories that explain placebo effect are the conditioning theory, which states the placebo effect is a conditioned response, and the mentalistic theory, which sees the patient's expectation as the primary cause of placebo effect. These are all psychologically manipulated. Spirituality is associated with the placebo responsibility. Highland in 2006 show that spirituality predicted perceived improvement of individual problems such as unexplained fears and worries after placebo. Like he has used the flower essence to treat independently of expectancy. Placebo effect is thus understandably a result of the expectations and mental states that result from engaging in the process of treatment. So these processes have teleological roots in ancient medicine and are the context that produces these responses is transforming with the evolution of modern medicine. So when placebo effect is observed, the potent agent that induces pain reduction is not the placebo itself, but the mental cueing to the context of taking treatment. So the individual is important in this process who is getting treated. Now coming to the question, is there any importance of the traditional healing system? Well, we just cannot ignore all the practices in the name of science. There are some values which again need to be researched, and what are the other benefits of those practices that we need to understand. But there are challenges also. The challenges to incorporate the traditional healing systems are modernization, stigma, and loss of traditional knowledge. In addition to that, there are also legal challenge to adapt some of the traditional methods. We need to do more research, more evidence-based studies. And when it comes to the traditional system of healing, primarily, we can use them as a preventive method to support holistic health and knowledge sharing. This is important. The point here is that our awareness and acceptance must grow with understanding the traditional system of healing. When we bring the traditional system of healing, then people would be aware of some of the challenges that they face, and they know exactly what is mental illness and how they are being addressed or cured. Now the question is, if there is so much value, then why faith healers are not working in the hospitals? Well, they may not work in the hospitals, but their role in the community can never be ignored. They are the people who can be the first choice with a scientific rigor. In addition to that, reintegrating people into the community, which was again given by Thomas Adio Lambo in the name of Arrow model in Nigeria in 1954. So this Arrow village project demonstrates three main principles of efficacious mental health care despite resource restraints applicable to psychiatric healthcare reform in the United States today. That is access, quality, and social responsiveness. Our main challenge is that suppose the person gets a cure, but what next? Is he leading or is he leading a normal life again back in the community, or is there any stigma attached with that person and people still treat the person as not mentally healthy, and that affects the quality of life of that individual. Based on this, we have proposed that we cannot just ignore the methods that are available in and around us and the environment in which we are living. Who makes the decision for us when there are people with mental illness? The decision makers are the primary family members, the peers, the relatives, and the community people, because they see something unusual in the person and they suggest, go to this temple, go to this Baba, go to this doctor, or you practice this, you will get cured. What happens here? The person adheres to some of the system, or at it, or maybe at times all of the systems together, and gets some kind of relief. But we exactly do not know which one actually has worked for the individual. So if you say that only modern medical healing can do cure, we may not be able to address the issues of many people where the belief system is a major hurdle. I would rather say it's not a hurdle. We can capitalize on the belief system to address this issue more holistically. So it is not just a biological being. The human being is also a social being, a cultural being. So treating the individual as a whole should be our goal. And here, an eclectic system of healing is required. Whichever systems work, let us work in that way. That's what is the answer to the questions that we have raised in the beginning. So to sum up, we can say that faith healing cannot be discarded completely for its lack of scientific rigor, as it has the treasure of ancient medical knowledge. More evidence-based empirical research should be carried out to know the truth. Assimilation with modern practice will lead to betterment of both contemporary and tribal people. Respecting each other methods will lead to cohesion and will open door to holistic health. The individual therapist occupies the key position in the process of faith healing. Hence, training, retraining, orienting, and reorienting the frontline therapists or healers is important. So thank you for your faith and belief with a scientific temper.
Thank you, Professor Biswal. Now the session is open for discussion. If anyone has any question, can address it over here. Any question from any participant?
I have something. Could I go?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Biswal. That was a very informative lecture.
Thank you.
I'm actually setting up a mental health helpline in Pune, and this is something that is very interesting in terms of how would you suggest that if we are looking at incorporating, let's say, faith healing into community mental health programs, what sort of, let's say, topics or modules would you consider when you're looking at retraining faith healers?
Well, we do not have any studies that can say who are actually into the practice. We need to identify those faith healers in the beginning, where they are situated.
Mhm.
And the second is the kind of belief system that people carry with them, because not everyone goes to all faith healers. They have some selected faith healers to whom they believe. So we need to first identify where are the places and who are the people where these people used to visit, used to go when they face any kind of issue. First, we need to get the data. The data is not available.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. But I'm asking that, let's say we do already identify the faith healers, what sort of training would we want to focus on in those cases?
Well, there is not a very straightforward answer for this. Maybe we need to understand the orientation of the faith healer, and we have to find out if the faith healer is not adhering some harmful practices or not. That is our job. We need to see that this client or the patient should not be unnecessarily harassed, or they used to uh, mm, make the situation worse, because faith healers they work from a different kind of perspective. Not every faith healer is having the right intention to help.
Right.
So as a therapist, it is our duty that we must know the intention of the faith healer, whether this client is going to be harassed by them or not. That we must check. That's important.
Sure.
I hope this answers your question, Priti. So we'll go with, is there anybody who want to?
Hi, my name is Lakshmi. I'm from the Banyan, Balm, Chennai. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
And I really, a lot of it resonates with the kind of work that the Banyan, for example, works in a very interesting site called in Gunaseelam, which is outside Trichy, where there's a collaborative project where it is situated near a temple. Of course, it's not within the ambit of indigenous communities, but people go there. And so there is also the clinical, place where there are families, the patients or the clients and families, and then there's a temple. And it seems to beautifully blend. There are lots of papers which are written. When I did my studies at NIMHANS, there's wonderful papers that don't look at indigenous communities in particular, but in the context of addiction, substance use disorders, where they integrate psychiatric interventions, individual therapies, group therapies, with people going to Sabarimalai. That's for he who asked a question. These are part of their MD and their MPhils and PhDs. Superb studies. So you could go into the archives and read up about it. And in my experience as a counselor, we definitely were open as mental health professionals by training to speak the language and to work with the client. Right? So as part of my training, maybe I was not formally educated, but if it means empathy, I have to relate to the client. And I hope the client has faith in me, because I'm a psychiatric social worker. So I think the word faith, it can be interpreted very differently. I hope the person across has faith in what in me, if I consider myself a healer in the context of SUD, in the context of depression. I think these are very important conversations, because I just sort of worry about
the individual. The individual is important here.
Absolutely. And I hope he has faith.
Yes.
He signs up, whether it's CBT, whether it's family counseling, whether it's individual therapies. I don't see how different I am from, where he or she goes to. I wonder, any comment on that?
Yeah.
Doctor?
Yeah. What I believe is that the practitioners must adhere to some ethical principles. What is lacking is the ethical practice in our system. We try to exploit the client because there are some opportunity to exploit. So those who are unprofessionally managing the clients, they try to exploit. And as a result of that, what happens, those who are trained as uh, professional practitioners, they have a bad name. They earn a bad name. Not all, but because of some of the unethical practitioners, they clients do not come to them. And again, if they have believe in someone else who is not a professional, but they have believed because of some or the other reason, they go back to them. So our job now is to understand their process as well as integrate our process with the practice that we are following and with ethics. That's what is more important. Like they believe the individual, they do not believe the process. They don't know about the process, what kind of process we are going to follow. They are hardly aware of the process, but they have full faith on the individual. As you have rightly mentioned, it's faith in the individual. So I resonate with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish we had more training. I wish we had more of this. During my studies, my MPhil, I just learned this in the clinic.
Yeah.
And I believe, I must say this because whether I'm using the word patients here, because we follow the biomedical model of training where I was trained, the so-called science, which I have personally, I wonder what science is sometimes, when I don't resonate with the person sitting across. From the beginning to the end, belief is important.
Yes.
So the faith healing, the help-seeking behavior in a country like India, which is so cultural, is so important because mental health is so stigmatizing.
Yeah.
First thing is to see somebody who's in a mental health setting. And the beauty is that they're embraced. And Professor, I must say ethics, we know that ethics can be violated in clinical practices, in different kinds of healers. We know that, you see. So the client is, the client or whoever has to be supported. And I believe that I have to change.
Yeah.
I have to really understand it's not the other. I'm the other. You see, I have to understand, whether it's a rural client, whether it's a client going to Sabarimalai for 40 days who doesn't touch one drop of alcohol. It's amazing. And what is there? That's faith. So am I willing to, as a practitioner, understand that, and bring that to the table?
Exactly. Like many a times as practitioners, we think that our training is the best and we didn't have to retrain or reorient ourselves or to change according to the demands of the situation. Rather, we must have a ever-learning attitude. Yes, there are changes, there are something coming up. Let me read, let me know, let me understand, let me reorient myself. So that's more important in any kind of profession. It's not about clinical practice or something like that. Any kind of profession demands that I must be agile and I must be having an attitude to learn and listen what's coming up in my way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Is there anyone who has any question, anything?
It's a wonderful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope there's no question further. Include, really, it was an excellent lecture and it profoundly addressed the healing system, exorcism, witchcraft, and all the significance of local deities, spirit, god and goddesses, and the therapeutic method, healing process that goes across the indigenous population from the global context to Indian context. And also the aim that you have showed, the healing model, that how you have devised the research that you have done across the tribal population in Odisha is fantastic. So on behalf of Banyan and Banyan Academy, and on behalf of senior management team at Banyan and Banyan Academy, I extend a gratitude to Professor R.K. Biswal for sharing his extensive knowledge and providing valuable insight to the word of faith healing, indigenous mental health. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Professor Biswal. Thank you, LS, and thank you all the participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
we shall wrap up the session then.
Yes.
Good night all.
Thanks. Bye.